The rain fell relentlessly, a steady drumming on the windows of the old Volvo as it wound its way up the narrow, twisting road. Sarah adjusted her grip on the steering wheel, her knuckles white with tension. She had been driving for hours, leaving the bustling city behind in search of a fresh start in the quiet town of Blackwood. She had heard rumors about Blackwood Manor, a grand old house nestled in the heart of the town. It had been empty for years, and the locals spoke of it in hushed tones, claiming it was cursed. As Sarah approached the town, she couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She had recently inherited the manor from a distant relative she had never met, and the prospect of living in such a place both thrilled and unnerved her. The GPS guided her through the winding streets until she reached the imposing wrought iron gates of Blackwood Manor. The rain had turned into a downpour, making the ancient house seem even more forbidding. Sarah parked the car and stepped out into the wet darkness. The manor loomed before her, a massive stone structure with ivy-covered walls that seemed to stretch endlessly into the night. The windows were dark, and the only sound was the pattering rain. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she approached the front door, an ornate wooden portal that creaked open with a reluctant groan. Inside, the manor was even grander than she had imagined. The foyer was vast, with a sweeping staircase leading to the upper floors and chandeliers hanging from the high ceiling. Dusty cobwebs clung to the corners, and the air was thick with the scent of age. Sarah set her bags down and explored the ground floor, marveling at the antique furniture and faded tapestries that adorned the rooms. As she wandered through the house, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The shadows seemed to move, and she heard faint whispers echoing through the halls. Chalking it up to her overactive imagination, she made her way to the kitchen, hoping to find something to eat. The pantry was well stocked, a strange contrast to the rest of the house, which appeared to have been abandoned for years. Sarah's unease grew as she settled into her new home. The nights were the worst. She would lie in bed, listening to strange noises that seemed to come from deep within the manor. Footsteps in the hallway, distant laughter, and sometimes, even a mournful wailing that sent shivers down her spine. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah immersed herself in the history of Blackwood Manor. She learned that it had been built in the late 18th century by a wealthy merchant named Elijah Blackwood. The Blackwood family had lived there for generations, but the manor had fallen into disrepair after the last surviving heir disappeared mysteriously over a century ago. Sarah was determined to restore the house to its former glory and uncover the truth behind its dark history. One evening, as she was exploring the manor's library, she came across a dusty old journal that belonged to Elijah Blackwood himself. The journal was filled with cryptic entries and detailed accounts of strange occurrences in the house. It seemed that even the original owner had been plagued by the same eerie phenomena that Sarah was experiencing. In one entry, Elijah wrote about hearing voices in the walls, whispering secrets that drove him to madness. Another entry spoke of a hidden room in the house, a room that was said to hold the key to unlocking the manor's darkest secrets. Sarah was intrigued and determined to find this hidden room. She enlisted the help of a local historian, Dr. Samuel Carter, who had a fascination with the town's history and had heard the legends surrounding Blackwood Manor. Together, they scoured the manor, searching for any clues that would lead them to the hidden room. It was a painstaking process, but their determination paid off. One stormy night, Sarah and Dr. Carter made a breakthrough. They discovered a loose panel in the wall of the library, and behind it lay a hidden passageway that led deep into the bowels of the manor. Armed with lanterns and their courage, they descended into the darkness. The passageway was narrow and winding, and the air grew colder with each step. The walls were lined with ancient, decaying books and strange symbols etched into the stone. Sarah couldn't help but feel that they were treading on hallowed ground, a place that had been hidden for a reason. After what felt like hours, they came upon a heavy wooden door, covered in dust and cobwebs. With trembling hands, Sarah pushed it open, revealing a room unlike any other in the manor. The walls were adorned with grotesque paintings of twisted figures and scenes of torment. In the center of the room stood an ornate pedestal, upon which rested a peculiar ornate key. As Sarah reached for the key, a chilling wind swept through the room, extinguishing their lanterns. Darkness enveloped them, and a haunting melody filled the air. They could hear whispers, echoing all around them, and Sarah felt a presence watching her every move. With the key in hand, they retraced their steps through the passageway and emerged back into the library. As the lanterns were relit, they realized that they had unlocked the first piece of the manor's dark history. The discovery of the hidden room seemed to intensify the supernatural activity in the house. Sarah and Dr. Carter began to experience more frequent and disturbing phenomena. Objects would move on their own, and eerie apparitions would appear in the mirrors. Sarah's dreams were filled with nightmarish visions of the past, of a time when the manor was a place of unspeakable horrors. They delved deeper into the journal of Elijah Blackwood, searching for clues about how to rid the manor of its malevolent presence. They learned of a ritual that was said to banish the spirits that haunted the house, a ritual that involved the use of the ornate key they had found. Desperate to bring peace to the manor, Sarah and Dr. Carter decided to perform the ritual. They gathered the necessary materials, including candles, herbs, and the key, and ventured into the darkest corners of the manor to perform the ceremony. The ritual was a harrowing experience, filled with strange incantations and the sense that they were being watched by unseen eyes. As they chanted the final words, a blinding light filled the room, and a deafening roar echoed through the manor. It felt as though the very walls were shaking, and Sarah and Dr. Carter clung to each other, praying that their efforts would be successful. The ritual had worked, at least partially. The supernatural activity in the manor had diminished, and Sarah and Dr. Carter allowed themselves to hope that they had finally put an end to the curse that had plagued Blackwood Manor for generations. But their relief was short-lived. As they were about to leave the manor one evening, a chilling voice echoed through the halls, a voice that seemed to come from the very walls themselves. It was a voice filled with anger and despair, and it spoke of a terrible secret that had been hidden for centuries. The voice led them to a hidden chamber deep within the manor, a chamber that contained a gruesome discovery. In the center of the room lay a stone slab, upon which rested the remains of a woman, her body contorted in agony. A plaque on the wall identified her as Abigail Blackwood, the last surviving heir of the Blackwood family. She had disappeared over a century ago, and her fate had remained a mystery until now. As Sarah and Dr. Carter examined the remains, they realized a horrifying truth. Abigail had been the victim of a dark ritual, a ritual that had bound her spirit to the manor, condemning her to an eternity of torment. The ritual had been performed by none other than Elijah Blackwood himself, who had sought immortality at a terrible cost. The revelation sent shockwaves through the manor, and the malevolent presence that had plagued them grew stronger. Sarah and Dr. Carter knew that they had to put an end to the curse once and for all. With the knowledge they had gained from Elijah's journal, they prepared to perform a new ritual, one that would free Abigail's spirit and break the curse that had held Blackwood Manor in its grip for so long. The final ritual was a perilous undertaking, filled with danger and uncertainty. Sarah and Dr. Carter gathered their materials and returned to the hidden chamber, where Abigail's restless spirit awaited release. They chanted the incantations, their voices trembling with determination, as they called upon the forces of the unknown to break the curse. As they reached the climax of the ritual, a blinding light filled the chamber, and the very walls seemed to tremble. The air grew heavy with power, and Sarah and Dr. Carter felt as though they were on the brink of something unimaginable. And then, with a deafening roar, the curse was broken. Abigail's spirit was released from its torment, and the malevolent presence that had haunted Blackwood Manor for centuries dissipated into the night. The manor was finally at peace. With the curse lifted, Blackwood Manor was no longer a place of darkness and despair. Sarah decided to open the doors of the manor to the public, turning it into a museum dedicated to the history of the Blackwood family and the town of Blackwood itself. It became a place of fascination for tourists and historians alike, a testament to the enduring power of the past. As for Sarah and Dr. Carter, they remained close friends, for